Today is day 6. Of the November 2005 7-day retreat in Springwater. Last night, during the night, I thought of two koans. And this morning I looked for the book and reread them. It's been a long time. And even within the koans, they also have a reference to each other. And the first one is called, well, let me first say why I was thinking of these, because we had talked about good and evil, and these things usually keep working in the brain when it is not completely resolved. I mean, so that the brain is satisfied that it is resolved. It keeps on working, and so this one koan about good and evil, it's called Think Neither Good Nor Evil, came to mind, and then also the one called Zuigan Calls His Master. And that one goes something like this. Every day, Zuigan, who was a Zen master, called out to himself, "Master." Yes? Now the way I had learned it was, "See clearly, see clearly." And in this book I looked it up, it says, "Be awake." Oh, no, "Are you awake?" And it says, "Yes," himself. This is sort of a dialogue with himself. So, "Are you awake?" "Yes, sir." Or, see clearly, "Yes, sir, yes, sir." And then he would say, "Don't be deceived by others." And he himself again responded, "No, sir, I will not be deceived by others." And the one, "Think neither good nor evil," goes like this. It's sort of an involved story, which I don't want to go too much into, but a lot of you have probably heard this koan, a very famous one where the rice pounding boy, a very young kid who had come to his master, he wasn't his master then, but he stopped in at a monastery of the then 5th patriarch, and that man took him in as a staff member, and but he got sort of the lowliest job. He couldn't come in the main halls yet. He had to stay in the background, pounding rice, and there was this competition for writing a poem. The master had been urged, or thinking himself, of succession. I got to have somebody here to take over this center when I'm gone. And so he asked the assembled monks to write a poem. And they wrote poems, and the head monk wrote a poem which was erudite and nice, but just so. It did not show the depth of understanding. And when the rice pounding boy came through that hall or foyer, it was not the main hall yet, and he saw that poem, he realized this wasn't it, and he wrote his poem right next to it. He couldn't even write, he was illiterate, but somebody who was friendly to him wrote it for him. And when the fifth patriarch saw that poem, he erased it. He had erased the first one too. And he did not want this one to become too public. And then he called the boy to him and he said, you've got to leave this monastery. It's not going to bode well for you if you stick around and people know you have written this poem. So in the dark of night, very, very romantic, he took a boat. There was a boat, and there must have been a monastery with a lake. And I think there was a neat thing in there too. He was going to row the rice pounding boy to the other shore, and this boy said, no, I'll row it. There's a nice exchange, which I've forgotten. But to make a long story short, it was, and he gave him the robe and bowl, a very important symbolic action. In secret, he gave him the robe and bowl. These are the insignia of transmission, that he's going to be the next master when this one is gone. And when the monks, the whole staff, they heard about this, they were very upset. And the main monk who had been there for a long time, and everybody thought he would be the successor, he outfitted a little group, and they were chasing after the boy to get this unrighteous robe and bowl back from him. It was not for him. They felt this was really sacrilege, that this robe and bowl, which everybody had thought was going to the head monk, went to this boy, this illiterate rice-pounding boy. And they chased after him and then caught up with him. And Wei Nang, that's the name of this boy, probably later he got this name. He first hid, and then he stepped out when they were just about to pass by. And he asked them what they were coming for, and they wanted the robe and bowl. So he took the robe and bowl and placed it on a rock. Oh, that's such a nice exchange. I should have brought the book. Saying something. This symbolizes the truth. How can it be fought over? Here, take it. He put it on a rock, and when the head monk was trying to lift it up, he could not. See, they had good things going at that time. Miracles at the right time. So they were all very stunned. And this head monk realized that this was the right successor, the right master. And he said he wanted to become his disciple and wanted to really understand deeply. He realized he had never understood deeply. And Wei Nang asked him, or said to him, thinking neither good nor evil, at that moment, where is your true self? Thinking neither good nor evil, where is your true self? And the Shen Su was his name. He just broke out in a sweat. He had, according to this account, a deep enlightenment experience, and prostrated and wanted to become his disciple and so forth. Thinking neither good nor evil at that moment. Where is our true self? Huh? So that's a good question to ask to oneself. Of course, in what we in Zen call the relative world, or the world of the discriminating intellect, which says this and that, and me and you, me and the world not going so well, I hope I'll make it, this kind of thinking, that is not thinking neither good nor evil, it is involved in that. So not thinking good nor evil, where is our true self? Or is at that moment the manifestation of our true self? When this is really happening, not just reciting it, or thinking there is no good and evil. It must be this vanishing of dualistic concepts. They're gone. The mind is clear. Think clearly or see clearly. At that moment, what manifests is what we have here recently called it, there's full presence or full awareness. Awareness without another. No other. This is in that first koan. This, don't think of others. There are no others, meaning that belongs into the world of discerning me and you, meaning discerning a borderline to oneself, and sort of an end skin to oneself. And outside of that borderline, which encircles the me, is what is not me, which is the creation of thinking, the conceptualization of me here, and everything that's not within that circumference is other. And with that, the mind creates, or thought creates, the world and me, this separate self, which all of us know. Well, we think we know it very intimately, but we don't really, because we take it so much for granted that this is the truth. That is why it is very arduous to question that separate me, because it seems so natural, so matter of fact, so of course. What else? How else could it be that one has to really work hard in spite of the rhetoric of effortlessness? It is like this every day this master calls out to himself. See clearly. Or are you awake? Awake meaning waking up of this dream of duality. The dream of me and those others. Either a little bit better than me or mostly a little bit worse than me. Because this confirms the me. It needs to confirm itself all the time. And if there are others that are not quite as good or as prudent or intelligent or whatever all we attribute to ourselves, then this gives us a boost, which we're always sadly in need of, because this artificially created me is always sagging. It does not have strength in itself because it is an illusion. Now, if you feel it's not an illusion, don't hesitate to admit it to yourself and then question it. Why do I feel this way? And question it with friends or when we have a dialogue group. and sort of penetrate into this questioning mode, which is a wonderful gift that is there for us to question, because that sort of rattles at the foundations into which we have escaped, and we think we're safe there, but we're not, because there's always the enemy outside. That's why I mentioned the other day, and it is, I think, a fact recognized by psychology. There's some paranoia in all of us about somebody being after us, being against us, because of this separation. Do you have that feeling? Somebody other is also against you. Very rarely do we suffer from a neurosis that everybody is for me. Well, it could be a gigantic illusion, because everybody is for themselves, mostly. Not to make any these 100% assertions. So, thinking neither good nor evil. Now, yesterday we batted this around, the good and evil thing. What is evil? And we can define it and give examples of it. You never arrive with these dialogues or arguments. It is an endless, endless cycle of arguing. There is and there isn't. And of course, the way we come into this world, if we want to put it this way, we are born out of a wonderfully wholesome oneness of mother, uterus, and the baby, provided with everything that's needed. Most of the time, there can be a disease there too. But most of the time, everything is provided, including warmth and containment. There is no space in which it is cold. Wherever the baby borders on, it's warm and moist and not separate, not on the other shore. It's here. Must be this way. This is, I think, what all of us deeply yearn for again, to regain that, to find that again, that paradise lost. Because it must be a horrific thing coming through that birth canal, narrow, tight thing, into a cold world, cold and dry, because things have improved over the years in the Western world, where the mother is now allowed to hold that baby right away, isn't yanked away from her. But still, it is must be a poor second to what she provided for this baby inside. Yeah. You could say, well, you don't remember it. How can you speak about it? But we must have a memory of it somewhere, because that brain is already quite developed. And the yearning for coming back home, finding one's true home, is in human beings. It's in all of us. This request, think neither good nor evil. Where is your true self? There was no good and evil inside the womb. I don't think so, unless the mother is very, very ill. or doesn't want this baby. It must communicate itself to the baby. She does not want it. But other than some of these or if she takes drugs, has woes with her marriage or whatever, insecurities, that all communicates itself, I'm quite sure. Even in this ideal position, in this ideal abode. What did I mention last night in a small group? This about this abode. I forget now. Does somebody remember it? Well, I'll come back later. Maybe tonight at 3:00. Find the place of no abiding. Yeah. Was put a little bit more poetically that time. Find the mind that abides nowhere. That was in relation to some other yearning of ours that we want to keep what we like forever and hope we found it and want to find something that we can keep forever. And then spiritual training says, find that abode, find that mind that abides nowhere, where this inner yearning for keeping this and staying here and holding on to it, where that is no longer there, that has deleted itself. Well, this was just an aside. So you could say, well, this is something impossible. Again, you always recommend these impossible things, like thinking neither good or evil, or finding a place where I don't want to abide, because this is when we found this place first time. A small group went here, and I think it hadn't even gotten 2 feet out of the car yet, but very close to that was so clear. This is our place. This is it. No more search. No more seeking for the ideal land, because this was it, as ideal as it can get. And I don't think we were wrong. It's been now for 30 years or so that we've unfolded our works here. It's been good 30 years. I don't know whether it's exactly 30. So there comes in this relative life, as it's called in Zen or in some spiritual traditions, there comes a moment where you stop searching and seeking, and you say, this is the place where we're going to build a house and try to maintain it, put some lacquer over it when it starts rotting, the wood, and maybe in a little bit more sophisticated way than the way I just described it. But not think, well, I shouldn't abide any place. This is so dangerous to try to apply things which don't apply or which don't fit. To be very discerning. Not everything that one hears or reads in spiritual books or sayings fits every relative instant. It doesn't. In other words, here we had to stop roaming. You keep roaming forever and look for the ideal place or the ideal teacher, the ideal teaching. What is going to happen? It's going to be a frazzled, hectic, frenzied life. This nagging thought, is this it? No, it isn't it. It must be someplace else. Well, there is some truth to it, but not the location or the people who do this work, the teaching. That is not either this or that or still something better. It is in oneself. This is where it is to be found, in waking up, not thinking good or evil. Not thinking. Not that we can avoid thinking, but to discern the limitations of thinking, how far it goes, and where it cannot reach, where it needs to fall into abeyance or fall silent. So yesterday we had started the talk with, is there really something fundamentally evil or fundamentally good? And we that was in the group discussion or dialogue. There's no end to this kind of dialogue, because as long as we use language and think in concepts, there will always be the other side, or how do they say it in cybernetics? Everything comes out of a series. It doesn't stand alone. It only stands in relation to all the other bits or members of the series. So as long as those operate, there will be a contrast or a series. It is this, but if it is like this, it is also not like that. But I liked in Krishnamurti's teaching that he was talking about a goodness that has no opposite. And this is where we have to come to in our thinking and talking, in that which has no opposite. Not conjure one up. We can always conjure up an opposite, or a family of siblings, members of the series. But it's not necessary. When there is goodness, there is no other. Does that make sense? We can maybe go into it more in the question period. It's not goodness in contrast to evilness. It is thinking neither good nor evil. Where is your true self? At that moment of no good or evil, is that pure goodness, or drop that word too. We don't need one. That state stands on its own. Needs no opposite to compare itself with or to define itself. That's the beauty of it. No definition necessary. And that is for you and me. There's no defining ourselves. I'm this and I'm that, and also I'm this, and maybe one time I will become that. Can that thinking abate? Abate in a vast ocean of not knowing. But that ocean is not ignorance. That ocean of not knowing is not ignorance. It is the openness. Maybe we could say in relative words, of all possibilities. That's not knowing. And therefore, the flowering in all possibilities. it's not quite, no, you cannot hit it. You cannot. It's just here. A limited word again. Yeah, here-ness or now-ness, if it means no concept of location, no concept of time, no time, no here and there, then you say, well, that's here-ness and now-ness, but let's be free to leave the words out. That's real freedom. Not needing to define in words where we are and what we are. Such a beautiful morning, isn't it? White powder sugar on the universe. Maybe for some people it would be powder salt. It also brings out the saliva, the ready to swallow. When we were preparing for this new book, the person who did the picking, or most of the picking of talks and things, and he felt actually this new book should have mostly dialogues. He felt this is what is really the juiciest part of this work now, is what evolves and unfolds in dialogue. Well, the publisher didn't think so. She felt, not the publisher, but she felt, the editor, that I should translate all these dialogues into talks and then make a book out of it, because as she felt, people would feel distant in reading a dialogue because it's not them. Somebody else who's talked to and who says something. And people want to relate to themselves. And a talk or a teaching, she felt, would be more able to make this possible, to relate this to oneself. Well, I didn't really quite know what she meant by that, because these dialogues, as we picked them and edited them, were not about other people. They were, not about thinking about others. It's about you, it's about me, it's about this here, what goes on in human beings. So she gave it to the editorial board of the Shambhala is the publishing company, And apparently they accepted it. So it's going to be published, dialogues or not. And if she wants to cut them out, or somebody let them, we've done what we can. But don't you find too that lots of things reveal themselves in dialogue when we approach our uncertainties? We're so unaware until there is dialogue of our uncertainties. We take things for granted, and all of a sudden we realize we don't know. And we need to go deeper and question. Look, alone and together. But maybe you feel the same way, although the group is full. The circle is usually no empty chair left. It is quite amazing to me to watch. People are not rejecting this format of probing, of dialoguing, and wondering, and not knowing, and listening. See, when you don't know and you question, then isn't every pore of the body open to receive, to investigate? When you know a lot, all these little questioning pores are plugged, not open anymore. That you know, and the knowledge plugs the openings. But when you don't know, I mean, in spiritual matters, when you cook, you ought to know what is the boiling point or the burning point. But when you don't, in this spiritual questioning, everything has to open up to find out, to see, to look, to aware. Do you find that is happening? And then maybe in this openness there's an answer. The answer, maybe. We will end here for today.